Well, hi, one more time, one more assignment, one more video. I'll explain here a little bit about what we're looking for this statement of the research problem assignment. So first of all, I'll put this in an announcement, but I'm going to reiterate it here that I'm going to schedule 2 group sessions, drop-in sessions, for you to just drop in, ask me questions, say hi, whatever you want to do. One is at March 26th at 8 a.m. and 28th at 7 p.m. That's to accommodate different time zones, and hopefully it's on your spring break, although I'm sure that's not true for all of you. So any questions are acceptable here. There's 2 assignments left, and so whatever you'd like to talk about is just fine. These are optional. Individual sessions, I'm going to also post a link on eClass that has a Google Sheet that has times that I'm available, and you can sign in on those times. If there are times there, if none of those times work for you, then you can just let me know and I'll see if I can find one that works for you. So these are individual times, about 20 minutes each. You can come on and just talk to me one-on-one and talk about your research problem assignment, or talk about other things that you're thinking about as you progress through this process. Both sessions are completely optional. You don't have to go to any of them if you don't feel you need them or want them. All right, so just a couple of reminders from early in the course that this is a process, and the process started last summer. And the process is continuing now and will continue this next summer, of course. You're going to go through, in this particular assignment and in this research process, a number of steps. One of them is to, of course, think about this area of research, which is what you did early in this course. And one of which you're going to do later in this course, right away here. You're going to state a research problem. I want to say one more time that just because you state a research problem in this course does not mean you are stuck with it. There may be changes that you make in your summer course coming up, and that might be due to logistics or ethics approvals, or because you've changed your mind, or all kinds of things might happen, and they do happen. So just remember that this is not something that's set in stone, and that you still have lots of wiggle room. You're going to talk about the importance or a justification of the problem, both from the literature point of view and from your own practice point of view, why you are deciding to do this work. You're going to talk about deficiencies in our knowledge of the problem, something that's often called the gap in the literature, although I've said previously that that doesn't, just because you find other studies that have done something similar, doesn't mean they filled in the gap. You are still in a different context with a different workplace and environment and people, and there's so many different things that virtually any study is going to be in a gap. It's just if you can find a place where people really haven't asked a certain question, and you can talk about why or how you are answering this question in a different way, then that's how you're looking at this deficiencies area. And audiences that might be interested in your results. So are you going to present this at conferences, at your school? Are you thinking of writing an academic paper? Are you going to share it with colleagues, with your school board? Why are you doing this, and who might be interested in the results? Just remember that this probably started out feeling like this first beach full of tiny little pebbles, and there's so many of them and you don't know which one to pick. And hopefully eventually we're starting to narrow it down so that you're starting to feel like you might be able to start seeing one or several stones on the beach as ones that are the most interesting. I hope. So you're on a journey from general at the top to specific at the bottom, a funnel, you could say. An area of research to your research problem. That's what this course hoped to bring you through. You are eventually going to have a purpose statement and a very concrete plan as to how you are going to do this work in the form of research questions that you're going to want to answer with, of course, certain methodologies. So just to remind you of the big picture here and where you are in the process. Of course, we always have to consider that ethics are with us at every step of the way. We have to consider, as you have seen in many of the comments that have gone back and forth, we have to consider both in advance and after the fact what ethics boards and authorities are going to tell us about what research we can and can't do. University ethics boards, school boards, administrators, and others will put constraints on what we can and can't do. And little e's, of course, the relationships we have with people and how we are going to maintain what Marshall and all has said earlier, respectful, fair, and caring research practices and relationships that we build and that we maintain while we do this. That's not always easy because sometimes we're working in areas that might be somewhat contentious, and it's important that work is done, but it can be done in ways that are as clearly respectful, fair, and caring as possible. I really like this quote from Hostetler in one of the readings, where he says, "We need to think beyond questions of how we will study students or analyze school policies. We need to think about how we can make life better for people." Kind of lofty. We need to think beyond our taken for granted ideas of well-being and what is good, and make those ideas the objects of serious communal inquiry. Serving people's well-being is a great challenge, but it's also our greatest calling. So like I said, that sounds very lofty, but many of you have expressed in one way or another in this course that you feel called to something, that you feel like it's important, and you really feel like you need to help. Teachers, students, systems. That's your calling. And if you're hearing those calls, then that research path will become clear to you. Now that sounds kind of airy-fairy, maybe not very concrete for a science teacher at heart, but it is the process. Whether we'd like it to be more concrete or not, it's a process that we have to all go through, and it's not step by step easy to do. So my advice for this assignment: make an outline. Be organized when you start. Many of these assignments at this level that we get sound like stream of consciousness writing. Like you sat down at the computer and you just typed and typed and typed for 3 hours, and then you said, okay, I'm done, and you handed it in. I'm not saying that's going to be you, but without the outline, people tend to end up with papers that sound like that. So have yourself a nice concrete list of things that you want to say in certain sections and stick to it. And if you don't stick to it, make sure that you change it in ways that make sense. You can use subheadings. Be careful to use APA style subheadings because there's a way to do that. Subtitles within your document where necessary and appropriate. You don't have to, but it often helps in a longer document to break up the parts into sections. And those sections are often going to be, in the case of this assignment, what the assignment actually asks for. It asks for certain things. Those might be your subheadings. You can use creative titles for your subheadings if you like, or not. Please don't title your entire assignment 4 or whatever. Please have a descriptive title. But besides that, what you put in subheadings is completely up to you, what makes sense to you. Watch for run-on paragraphs and sentences. Paragraphs that are a page long are too long, and sentences that are a page long are too long. So make sure you're breaking up your writing so that the reader kind of gets a break and gets to see where you're going. And that will also keep you organized. Every paragraph should have a topic sentence, should have a sentence that outlines what's going to be in the paragraph. So watch for those. Write it all. This is my own advice, and it doesn't work for everybody. Write it all. Might be way too many words. Might be not enough. But write what you want to say, and then either beef up the words, maybe with supporting quotes if you don't have enough, or more likely start to trim. And you'd be surprised how much you can trim out of that and still say what you want to say. Use quotes sparingly, but use them. Make sure you are doing some in-text quotations here. You can paraphrase what other authors say, but here is the place where you can actually use a nice pithy quote that somebody actually said something that really spoke to you, and you can just place it right in there. Remember, quotes over 40 words have to be block quoted, which is a different format where they have to be indented in the page, etc. I would suggest you don't use any of those because you can often trim some words out of that quote to help your argument without using so many from somebody else. This is your work. You want it supported by others, but you don't want it to be somebody else's work. You can still change your problem, your statement of your research problem this summer. You probably aren't going to go too far afield from your area of study, but you are not set in stone at this point. So don't think that you are committing something that you are not sure of and you worry that you're not going to be happy with it. If you're not happy with it, it'll change. Aim for refined and succinct. Not wordy, not full of jargon, you're not trying to sound smart. You're supposed to try to write to an audience so that they can understand what you're saying. Get someone else to proofread. It's surprising what you will miss yourself without proofreading. Sentence fragments, incorrect grammar. Pay attention to those little squiggly lines underneath words in your Word document. They are telling you something, and 95% of the time, it's something you should change. Leave yourself 2 or 3 days to go back and revise things. It's due on April 12th. So now you should put the due date in your head as April 9th. And try to get it done by April 9th. And then leave it for a day and come back to it again. And you'll be surprised what you think you want to revise after looking at it for so long. Taking a break for 24 hours can really, really help the quality of a document. So I know that's not always easy, but that's my recommendation, my very hard-won recommendation. After many years of trying to squeeze it out at the last minute, I realized that my quality improved greatly if I just gave myself a little bit more time. APA style, yes, it needs a title page. Yes, it needs a reference list. Everything should conform to APA 7 style, and we will be grading for that. But more importantly, we'd like you to really be able to express basically what you've learned here in this assignment. It's kind of a summary of the things that you've learned in this course. So you can't say everything, obviously, and it's not a paper that should be written as a personal reflection. It's not your opinions. It's an academic paper that really takes each section as an academic topic and explores it. So I hope that helps. Of course, there are the group drop-in sessions and the individual sessions where I'll try to help you more. But that's my advice after reading a lot of these graduate student papers over the years. Okay, thanks. Hope you have, if not fun, then at least I hope you feel like it's starting to come together as you do this. And once you hand that paper in, it might not feel like a final product yet, but it might feel like the pieces are starting to gel maybe a little bit. So you're feeling a little bit like you can go into the summer and get to work again. Okay, thanks.